For nearly a decade, the United States had persistently pursued a single target: Osama bin Laden, the architect behind the September 11th attacks that claimed the lives of approximately 3,000 Americans, igniting a conflict still ongoing as of May 2, 2011. Despite dismantling the Taliban government, which had provided bin Laden with a safe haven at the time of the attacks, the United States had been unable to apprehend or eliminate him until now. For years, the CIA had been on the hunt for bin Laden's hidden refuge. Without success, he had evaded capture in Afghanistan, then occupied by US forces, and slipped into neighboring Pakistan. In Pakistan's remote, mountainous areas with limited governmental oversight, he remained concealed. For years, intelligence agencies sought leads, finally receiving a breakthrough in 2010 that directed them to a compound in Abbottabad. Surveillance operations on the compound commenced, studying the structure and planning a potential incursion. What unfolded became one of the most complex intelligence missions in modern US history. The compound was heavily fortified and situated in hostile territory, necessitating reliance on local assets for information gathering. Months of observation revealed intricate details of the building, but critical gaps remained. The elusive figure was extremely cautious, so much so that no image of him entering or exiting the compound was ever captured. Yet, after exhaustive analysis, intelligence pointed decisively to the presence of bin Laden. It was now time to act. On April 29th, President Obama received a detailed briefing on the operation. Skepticism among his security team was palpable, with concerns that, if the mission failed, elite US personnel might be unalived or stranded in enemy territory, risking their lives and potentially compromising sensitive information. Doubts about bin Laden's presence in the compound only intensified the debate. Despite this, President Obama decided to proceed, green-lighting the operation later known as Operation Neptune Spear. Leading the mission would be SEAL Team 6, an elite unit within the Navy SEALs, answering to the Joint Special Operations Command. These specialists were trained for top-secret operations, including counterterrorism and high-value target missions like that of bin Laden. The team would be briefed on a capture or eliminate objective. Although officially the US avoids targeting enemies who surrender, there was little expectation bin Laden would capitulate. The mission planning, spanning nearly a year, evaluated multiple strategies. The simplest option, a joint operation with Pakistan's military, was dismissed due to fears of an intelligence leak that could alert bin Laden. Striking the compound with stealth bombers was another option but would lack confirmation of his death. Instead, the government opted for a more traditional approach, deploying SEAL Team 6 via modified Black Hawk helicopters designed to evade detection. The plan aimed to infiltrate the compound without triggering Pakistani defenses, execute the mission, and exit swiftly. By 1:22 p.m. on May 1st, Defense Secretary Leon Panetta received the final go-ahead from President Obama. Shortly afterward, the president and his national security team convened in the Situation Room to observe the operation via drone-feed night vision. The mission's 24 SEAL operatives were temporarily reassigned to the CIA, technically reclassifying it from a military mission, which could otherwise be perceived as an act of war. These would be pivotal minutes in recent US history, and for the operatives on the ground, every second was vital. Around 3:30 a.m., 2 Black Hawks descended on the Abbottabad compound, with backup helicopters nearby if needed. The low-flying helicopters deployed ropes for the SEALs to descend, while another unit covertly dropped off an interpreter, a dog handler, and additional personnel. Although the approach was undetected, a sudden aerodynamic phenomenon caused one helicopter to spin out of control, narrowly avoiding a crash as the pilot made a controlled landing. Miraculously, the SEALs escaped unharmed, and the mission continued undeterred. As the SEALs breached the compound, they methodically advanced through its floors. Portable explosives allowed entry into the guest house, where 2 adult males were found and detained but were not the primary target. Children were also discovered, underscoring the compound's dual function as a family residence. The SEALs moved cautiously, understanding that each step further into the building increased the risk. As they ascended, the team encountered resistance from bin Laden's courier, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, who reportedly engaged the SEALs in a firefight. However, conflicting accounts suggest al-Kuwaiti may have been neutralized without returning fire after the SEALs cut power to the compound. Further progression brought the SEALs into contact with bin Laden's family members and his son, bolstering hopes that the target was close. Finally, on the compound's top floor, they located bin Laden himself. Initially glimpsed sticking his head out of a bedroom, he was immediately wounded by the SEALs before retreating inside, where the team followed. Inside the room were bin Laden's female relatives, one of whom attempted to approach the SEALs. After capturing her, the SEALs advanced toward their target, prepared to bring the mission to its conclusive end. Osama bin Laden had exhausted all options for escape, with America's elite special forces positioned just beyond his last refuge. What occurred next is recounted in contrasting narratives. According to Matt Bissonnette, a SEAL on the scene, bin Laden was severely wounded by initial confrontation as they advanced. His wives attempted to shield him, necessitating cautious action from the SEALs since any of them might possess explosive devices. As they pressed forward, they discovered bin Laden on the ground, still alive but gravely injured. When he moved, the SEALs fired additional shots, permanently neutralizing one of the world's most infamous figures. However, another SEAL, Robert J. O'Neill, shared a different account. O'Neill, who later identified himself as a mission participant, described a more dramatic sequence. In his account, bin Laden, though injured, was not incapacitated. Instead, he allegedly grabbed one of the women nearby, attempting to shield himself. O'Neill reported that as bin Laden pushed the woman towards them, he reacted instantly, firing 2 shots directly into bin Laden's forehead, ending bin Laden. Which version is accurate? The Navy's post-mission report aligns more closely with Bissonnette's account. And just like that, one of America's most prominent adversaries had been taken down. The SEAL team signaled back with the code, Geronimo, 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 confirming the target's elimination. The operation, from landing to bin Laden's demise, spanned under 15 minutes, an astonishingly efficient mission with no significant injuries to the SEAL team. Watching from the Situation Room, President Obama simply remarked, "We got him," but their task wasn't entirely over. At 3:55 a.m., the SEAL team swiftly prepared bin Laden's body for transport and began searching the compound for intelligence. They found an unloaded assault rifle and pistol in his room, suggesting the al-Qaeda leader hadn't anticipated armed conflict. Nearly everyone who had posed a threat was neutralized, but many non-combatants remained. Choosing not to take the women and children into custody, the SEALs restrained them outside, where Pakistani authorities would soon find them. Bin Laden's wife, Amal Ahmed Abdul Fattah, confronted the SEALs throughout the mission, passionately defending her husband's ideology. After securing essential evidence, the SEAL team loaded the first helicopter and prepared for a low-profile departure to avoid detection. As heroes back home, they knew an unauthorized mission could create complications with Pakistani forces if discovered. Yet, as they had with the landing, SEAL Team 6 managed an efficient exit. However, the damaged Black Hawk, equipped with advanced stealth technology, required special attention. Using portable explosives, they destroyed the chopper, ensuring no sensitive information remained behind. The backup helicopter then arrived, lifting the remaining SEALs out safely. The journey back to friendly territory was longer than the mission itself, spanning over 90 minutes. While the team focused on a stealthy return to US-occupied Afghanistan, an American military officer speaking in Urdu misled local onlookers by claiming the operation was a Pakistani mission, which defused tension and allowed a seamless departure to Bagram Airfield, where they delivered bin Laden's remains. Back in Washington, there was anticipation for the confirmation of bin Laden's identity, given his history of using lookalikes. After more than an hour, a report confirmed the identity of the deceased as Osama bin Laden. That evening, the news spread that President Obama would address the nation. Just before midnight, he spoke, announcing to the American people and the world that bin Laden, the architect of terror responsible for countless deaths, had been unalived. Across the United States, celebrations erupted as Americans marked the end of a nearly decade-long pursuit. Crowds at sports events cheered. Democrats lauded the Obama administration's success, and Republicans acknowledged the demise of a formidable enemy. Yet, there remained the question of what to do with bin Laden's body. The U.S. sought to respect Islamic burial traditions, ultimately opting for a sea burial to avoid a potential pilgrimage site. After coordination with Saudi officials, who were indifferent to the specifics of disposal, the body was draped in a white cloth, weighted with iron chains, and cast into the sea from the aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson. This action ensured bin Laden would have no memorial. When Pakistan was informed of the operation, tensions ran high, as local authorities denied involvement and emphasized that Pakistani planes arrived only after the U.S. forces had left. The raid's implications persisted, sparking debates on the legality of such missions and conspiracy theories. Once the mission was partly declassified, books and Hollywood productions emerged, each offering its own perspective on the operation. The film Zero Dark 30 dramatized events with a fictional intelligence analyst as the hero, showcasing Hollywood's penchant for reinterpreting historic moments. Osama bin Laden, who became the world's most sought-after terrorist, orchestrated one of the most devastating attacks on U.S. soil and evaded capture for nearly a decade. His life, originating from privilege in Saudi Arabia, took a radical turn during the Soviet-Afghan War and intensified after the Gulf War, leading him to form Al-Qaeda. His initial attacks were small, but soon escalated to large-scale operations, targeting U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania in 1998. The name Al-Qaeda was largely unknown to the American public until this moment, igniting a national desire for retaliation. President Bill Clinton acted swiftly, launching Operation Infinite Reach, a coordinated series of cruise missile strikes aimed at Al-Qaeda camps in Afghanistan and Sudan. This marked the U.S.'s first military action against a non-state actor, though some anti-war advocates argued it was unauthorized, given that neither Afghanistan nor Sudan were official U.S. adversaries. Nevertheless, Osama bin Laden survived, and the operation ultimately bolstered his image among extremists. Notably, this was soon after the Taliban had seized control of Afghanistan, and the militant leaders deepened their alliance with bin Laden, refusing to extradite him. The conflict was far from over. Bolstered by his success in prior strikes, bin Laden next aimed to sink a U.S. naval vessel. His first attempt in early 2000 failed due to equipment issues, but he learned from this setback. By October 2000, he orchestrated the bombing of the USS Cole, resulting in the deaths of 17 American sailors. This incident may have had political ripples in the U.S. election the following month, though it was merely a precursor to what lay ahead. Despite these events, bin Laden was still not regarded as a paramount threat. That perspective would drastically shift within a year. The September 11, 2001 attacks marked Al-Qaeda's most devastating assault on American soil since Pearl Harbor. The attacks involved hijacked planes demolishing the World Trade Center, striking the Pentagon, and a fourth plane crashing in Pennsylvania, originally intended for the U.S. Capitol. Osama bin Laden became America's primary adversary, prompting newly elected President George W. Bush to demand immediate justice. When the Taliban refused to hand over bin Laden, instead calling for diplomatic talks, Bush dismissed the offer, initiating the war on terror. The U.S. commenced airstrikes in Afghanistan days after the attacks, targeting bin Laden and his followers. But he proved elusive, frequently shifting between isolated Taliban-controlled hideouts. Eventually, he retreated to the Tora Bora region, where rugged terrain provided a natural shield from pursuers. As the pursuit continued, bin Laden refrained from launching another harm of similar magnitude against the U.S. mainland. Nonetheless, his followers continued efforts globally, with heightened security measures within the U.S. limiting his options. While smaller attacks were attempted worldwide, the hunt for bin Laden continued, albeit quietly. During these years, bin Laden moved from hideout to hideout, largely undetected. Occasionally, low-quality videos surfaced, in which he would issue new threats, fueling speculation that he might be using lookalikes to propagate his message. Despite extensive efforts, leads remained scarce, and for a time, the U.S. focused its search in Afghanistan. But as the Taliban regime fell, Afghanistan's new government under Hamid Karzai cooperated with U.S. interests, while the Taliban, now insurgent fighters, launched ongoing assaults. Unbeknownst to most, bin Laden had crossed into Pakistan, seeking refuge in various safe houses before settling in a fortified compound in Abbottabad. The U.S., mindful of maintaining strong diplomatic relations with Pakistan, a nuclear power, hesitated to conduct aggressive operations there. Limited intelligence from Pakistani authorities compelled American forces to rely on detainee interrogations and other unconventional intelligence sources. One such source was Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, a courier with alleged links to bin Laden. By 2007, the CIA identified him as Ibrahim Saeed Ahmed, tracing his movements to Abbottabad. Years of surveillance revealed his routine trips to a heavily secured compound, an anomaly for the rural area. The compound's fortified nature, including high walls and barbed wire, indicated it was designed to shield someone significant. To confirm suspicions, the CIA devised a clever ruse. Dr. Shakil Afridi, posing as a vaccination worker, approached the compound, gathering DNA samples from the children. Though it's unclear if these samples conclusively verified bin Laden's presence, Afridi's involvement became a source of contention with Pakistan, leading to his persecution. By 2011, the U.S. had gathered enough intelligence on the Abbottabad compound. Unlike typical homes, it lacked digital connectivity, isolating it further. The CIA determined that bin Laden, if present, was exercising extreme caution, seldom leaving the premises. With intelligence confirming high-profile occupants, President Obama authorized the mission. Back in the U.S., public attention on bin Laden had waned. George W. Bush's administration had shifted its focus to Iraq, where mounting casualties, natural disasters, and a financial crisis marked his second term. By the time Barack Obama took office in 2009, many had accepted the idea that bin Laden might be dead. While some reports suggested his health was failing, no conclusive evidence emerged. As 2011 approached, the CIA escalated its surveillance of the compound. Drone reconnaissance provided detailed layouts, allowing American forces to prepare for the eventual operation. To aid in surveillance, U.S. intelligence utilized advanced tracking tools to detect any cellular signals around the compound, even though it lacked internal tech. Ironically, the compound's vast size and high security made it easy to monitor from various vantage points. Years of investigation led to a defining moment. The intelligence dossier reached the president, and Barack Obama faced one of his presidency's most consequential choices. White House counterterrorism advisor John Brennan and CIA Director Leon Panetta crafted Operation Neptune Spear, intending either to capture or eliminate bin Laden. Though U.S. policy prohibited targeting any enemy willing to surrender, the mission was designed with the assumption that bin Laden would resist. Yet, this seemingly straightforward decision held profound implications. Vice Admiral William McRaven, head of Joint Special Operations Command, was briefed next. A seasoned leader in special operations, McRaven advocated for a commando raid. He noted that an airstrike risked failing to confirm bin Laden's identity, and civilian losses could spark conflict with Pakistan. However, the U.S. couldn't ascertain Pakistan's stance on bin Laden. Coordinating with their government could risk tipping off bin Laden, so the mission proceeded unilaterally. President Obama initially favored an airstrike but reconsidered after learning that potential underground bunkers might shield bin Laden. Instead, McRaven devised a comprehensive commando strategy, with top-tier Navy SEALs trained rigorously for this high-stakes task. The SEALs practiced in mock compounds to simulate the raid, reflecting the mission's importance. When informed of their target, bin Laden himself, the team reportedly erupted in cheers, realizing they were part of history. Equipped with specially modified Black Hawk helicopters designed to evade radar, the SEALs prepared for stealth. Aware of Pakistan's capabilities, U.S. forces believed they could evade detection. Plans accounted for bin Laden's potential surrender, though deemed unlikely, and contingencies were in place if the SEALs were captured. With Obama's final approval, the mission was underway, and SEAL Team 6 took to the skies toward Abbottabad. In the White House Situation Room, the president and his advisors monitored the raid. Command over the 12 SEALs shifted to the CIA, technically removing U.S. military jurisdiction over the team while on Pakistani soil. Reinforcements included 67 backup commandos and a military dog, Cairo, a Belgian Malinois trained to track anyone fleeing and detect nearby threats. Approaching the target, one Black Hawk helicopter encountered airflow issues and had to make a hasty landing, but it avoided a crash. With the team grounded, the objective was clear: storm the compound and confront its occupants. Osama bin Laden, once a shadowy figure and global enemy, was now dead. Following years of evasion, his reign had ended at the hands of SEAL Team 6. With his identity confirmed, one challenge remained: disposing of his remains. Cremation, which would leave no trace, was dismissed, as it conflicts with Islamic burial traditions. Despite bin Laden's crimes, the US opted to honor his religious customs, avoiding any action that might fuel further animosity. But burial posed challenges. No country wanted bin Laden's body, as a grave could become a focal point for extremists. Throughout history, notorious figures like Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh have met unceremonious ends, either cremated or interred in obscure locations. McVeigh, for instance, was cremated after a law prohibited his burial in a military cemetery. Even John Wilkes Booth, the man who assassinated Abraham Lincoln, was buried in an unmarked grave. Considering options, the US chose a sea burial, preventing any potential memorial site. Islamic tradition mandates burial within 24 hours, so the US swiftly conducted the ritual. After confirming bin Laden's identity through photos and DNA, his body was prepared on the USS Carl Vinson. Following Islamic rites, his body, weighted with iron, was committed to the ocean, forever beyond reach. However, the choice sparked debate. Some argued that the US should have allowed for a traditional burial in a familiar location, while others believed any form of respect was undeserved. Bin Laden's oceanic burial kept him forever hidden, yet questions about the operation's methods persisted. Controversy lingered, as some questioned the legality and ethics of the mission, but the outcome was irrevocable. Bin Laden's body rested far beneath the waves, ending a dark chapter in history. From the covert planning stages to the high-stakes raid and its aftermath, the mission to eliminate Osama bin Laden marks one of the most pivotal moments in modern counterterrorism history. A decade-long pursuit culminated in an operation that brought justice to the architect of unspeakable tragedy. But with justice came questions about the ethics of the mission, the decisions surrounding his burial, and the broader implications for global security. As history continues to reflect on these events, one thing remains certain: the story of Operation Neptune Spear is a testament to human resolve and the complexities of pursuing justice in an interconnected world. If you found this story fascinating, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. And let us know your thoughts. Was this mission a perfect execution of justice, or does it leave you with lingering questions?